Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're about to receive the world's first international medical podcast, hosted by 3 paramedics from different countries. Live from the UK, Finland and Australia, this is Group Call.
Hi guys, and thank you for tuning in. So tonight we're going to find out what are 3 or maybe more most common mistakes paramedics do on the beginning of their career, especially for you, dear guys. 4 experienced paramedics will share mistakes they made for you guys to actually avoid it. So stay tuned and fasten your seatbelts. Hi guys, good to see you. It is a good evening to you, Teemu, in Finland, Northern Hemisphere. And it is a very good morning to Southern Hemisphere.
Morning.
Harrison. Guys, we asked a question and we posted it on Facebook a few days ago, asking if I could go back in time, what I would say to younger self, to myself, what mistakes I should avoid. And we already have a few answers. 2 paramedics from Canada. Hi, Canada. Thank you for tuning in. Billy said, do not waste time on any form of healthcare, which is a bit sad. And the second paramedic, Mike said, buy back my part-time years, which brings us to the first mistake, to the first point of our today's show. Do not let others bring you down. Right, Harrison?
Yeah. So it's something that I kind of wish I focused more on in my early years. And so I started early 2020 when COVID really kicked off, so we'll say. And it was very exciting to be on road and having a job and in the career that I've wanted to do for quite a long time. But as the pandemic has gone on, as I'm sure most of our listeners will appreciate, even if they're not in the healthcare industry, is that there's been a lot of stresses on us from the general public, from media, from the workload in general. So there's been a lot of factors that have sort of brought us down. But the point that I want to bring up is I noticed for me, and it was only on reflection, that the morale of the group was affecting my personal morale, and that affected my mental health and my desire to do the job. I wasn't coming in to work on those mornings and afternoons and evenings with the same want to be at work. Mm-hmm. And it took a period of some annual leave off work to sort of refresh myself and come back and sort of hit the ground running to really realize where I had been at the time and the factors that were at play there. I still really enjoyed the job. And still do really enjoy the job, but there was a lot of poor morale in our industry, and I really let that affect me and my morale. It's a lot more difficult. It's easier said than done to not let those sort of things affect you, but often something that I mentioned to newer employees, newer students that I work with recently is to, not let anyone kill your enthusiasm for the job. If you're coming in excited, raring to go, don't let people bring you down. And as I said, I think it is a lot easier said than done. Obviously, you guys that have been in the industry for a little bit longer, I want to see how that's affected you guys early on in your careers without a pandemic and how it's been recently for you.
Mr. Silva.
Yeah, I actually had like a similar points, and it's really interesting to hear from you, Harrison, because like obviously you started during the pandemic. But as like a tip for myself, or like my younger self, I put down as don't listen to paramedics or nurses who are already burnt out and cynical, like on the job, and like don't listen to them at all. Don't go into that. So obviously it's not the same. It wasn't the same before as it is now, probably for new starters, luckily for us. But still, it's always been the case that there's always somebody who's given up on the profession, doesn't like it anymore, but still probably hasn't found like a good new place to go to, or is scared to change, or like find a new job, new career. So then they will stay on, and they will unfortunately put others down. And definitely, well, nobody should listen to them, but especially the new starters, because they will pull you down with them, unfortunately.
Mm.
Well, I was fortunate enough because I started. I moved from a fire brigade where I was kind of a medic firefighter to the hospital environment where I was supported. I was really supported. Actually, all my colleagues from Banaha Hospital in Warsaw, guys, thank you. You've been amazing. I was really supported then. So definitely I was not brought down. However, later on when I transferred over here to this country, and don't get me wrong, a majority of our colleagues were absolutely smashing. I was faced with lots of negativity, and actually I was quite an experienced clinician back then because I had nearly 9 years in the job, but I still felt this negative vibe, and I was quite surprised, and I was trying to find out when and where did this negativity start, and I couldn't find the reason. However, to all our listeners and viewers, to close off this point, do not let others bring you down. This is the best job ever. This is the best job ever, and we are so privileged that we can actually do it. Yes, I know it's very difficult. Pandemic is there. We are tired. We are sometimes very what's the word I'm looking for? Even burnt out. Is that the word? How do you say burnt out?
I think so. So it's really being aware of sort of what's going on for yourself with your own morale and with everyone else's morale. Because if you're not sort of cognizant of it, it does sort of catch you out. And I feel like that's definitely what happened to me. And luckily I sort of found, as I said, it is easier said than done to sort of avoid that happening. But I find what worked for me and what continues to work for me is you find something that motivates you in the job. It could be the reason why you chose to do the job in the first place, or it could be another aspect of this career, this awesome career that Alex has mentioned, that motivates you to sort of get up in the morning and keep going on. And when you go into work and you're working with those older, cynical people that Timu mentioned, just haven't moved on as they probably should have.
But
like having something in your mind to sort of
I can tell you what my advice is and how I deal with negativity. I just kill them with kindness, and I'm so overexcited, like a small meerkat on cocaine. Like I'm all over the place. I'm buying snacks. I'm in need, and people who used to work with me can absolutely confirm that. With any negativity, I'm trying to address or fight with just being kind and all over the place and over happy. Which brings us to the second point. I want to make it very strong, and it's going to be very personal now because I did not make any statement like that before. So the point I want to bring out as a second one, and one of the most common paramedics mistakes is we tend to say to ourselves, just suck it up, just go with it. And we should not. We should stand our grounds. And the story I want to tell you guys and to all of our viewers is that I've been racially bullied when I came over to this country. And unfortunately, as I said, majority of our colleagues were amazing. But unfortunately, I was bullied by one of the ambulance officers. And the problem is that, you know me, I don't mind banter. I really like to laugh. Mm-hmm. But he was taking the piss in front of the patients. and primarily because of my accent. And let's face it, when I came over to this country, I did not speak English as people on the streets. In Poland we were taught Queen's English, so it definitely sounded very weird, and I was very aware of it. However, when I came over here, as I said, I was quite experienced clinician. I worked on any pediatric intensive care with ambulance service, and I felt awful because of this chap who was taking the piss in front of the patients. I could not focus on what I was doing. I could not focus on treatment, on diagnosis. All I was thinking is, my English is crap, and which grammar tend to use. And guys, I still make mistakes. My grammar is still awful. It's Ponglish more than English. But now I'm not so ashamed as I was. But my point is, I didn't report this chap. Okay, I booked my tickets home twice. I did not go home. I stayed here. And I think that the fact that I did not report this chap to our managers was fear. I was afraid. I thought, yeah, maybe I'm experienced clinician, but still I'm new in this environment. So I should just keep my head down and I should just do my job and try to be better and learn more. And later on, I found out that this chap bullied more international paramedics, and I felt really bad because maybe if I would actually report him, all those colleagues would not have been bullied. Yeah, so that's the first time I share this with you guys. But definitely our younger colleagues, our paramedics who just started, stand your grounds. And if someone is trying to bully you, just report it. Just deal with it, guys. Do not try to just keep your head down. It's one of the worst things you can do. Teemu?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the story that you told. You started at High Wycombe, didn't you?
I did, yep.
Yikes. I might know who you're talking about, and I didn't get the same treatment, luckily, because I'm harder to pin down, basically, based on my accent and everything. Even the patients in the UK I found were more harsh on Polish paramedics than on me, even though my English is somewhat broken sometimes as well. But it's not as easy to like say, oh, you're from Poland, you're from, wherever. So I got off easy. But in that same vein, I was thinking, like, in terms of what I've done and what kind of stuff I've put up with, and the thing that I came to my mind is that when I first started, I tried to progress and get further, especially after coming back from the UK, back to Finland, to progress my career by basically burning the candle from both ends. So I did lots of stuff basically for free. So I obviously spent more time on the station than other paramedics on working on projects and studies and all that stuff, and also spent my free time at home doing all those sorts of things, never marking them down as time spent working. So definitely do not give your skills and your time free ever. If it's running calls, going on jobs, or if it's doing studies, or even I think even doing mandatory educational stuff, you shouldn't do it for free. It should be time that you get paid for, because obviously you are basically selling your knowledge to your employer and through that benefiting the patients. So yeah, take pride in yourself and charge for what you do.
Is that the same thing down the southern hemisphere, Mr. Steed?
Somewhat. I mean, we're quite lucky here where we get a lot of our continuing education is paid for and reimbursed for. But I actually really, really like the point that Timu brought up there, where we're selling our knowledge to our employer and to our patients. I mean, you often hear the, without the explicit references to what else it can entail, but sort of selling our bodies in that it's a physically demanding job. Often we're often put in, contortionist positions and things like that. And actually, the more I speak, the more I think it's actually heading down that way. But it's difficult on our job, and difficult on our bodies, and we're often selling our physical welfare. But actually selling our knowledge, hiring out our knowledge to our employees is a really good way of putting it. When you mentioned before, Alex, the workplace bullying and the encountering that in front of patients is a really, really inappropriate thing in the workplace. And I feel like, in general, I mean, society in general is getting better at realizing these things. I think our industry is getting better at realizing these things. And definitely my service has gone through quite a large scale review on workplace bullying. It was definitely a problem. Myself being a young white male native English speaker, I haven't experienced the same thing that a lot of other people have experienced, and like yourself, Alex. But I've seen it happen in other forms. So when you mentioned, the bullying happening in front of patients, and standing up for yourself, I think that's really important, especially when we're dealing with other healthcare professionals. So I'm not too sure if you guys have experienced the same thing, but you might be handing over to a doctor or a nurse, and they might not agree with your management, but you've managed as best of your knowledge, as best of your protocols, your guidelines, but also not even that, but just the limitation of the equipment and the interventions that you have and are able to perform. You've done the best of your ability, and still it's not enough for some people.
Yeah.
And sometimes you will get questions from those people that you hand over. Oh, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? But that's fine to have that professional discussion. But when you mention standing up for yourself, luckily I've not really had it happen to myself. Only once or twice, but I've seen it happen where you're off writing your paperwork and a doctor comes in and they berate you in front of your colleagues, going, "Why did you do this? You should not." And that's really inappropriate.
Indeed.
And at the same token, I've seen paramedics do it on the other side to nurses. Often when we're picking up from a nursing home or aged care facility, and the nurse isn't familiar with the patient, that old cliche, which is often more true than it is incorrect. But there's no room in this industry to berate people in front of their colleagues, in front of their patients. If you have a problem with the way someone's managed something, then have a private conversation with them. Because it's much more appropriate. It's much less embarrassing for the person. You don't come across as a dick to everyone else watching. But also that person's much more likely to take that on board because you've addressed it with them directly. And they're more likely to go, okay, yeah, I'll improve upon that. This is an area of feedback rather than this is a personal attack. So yeah, when you mentioned standing up for yourself, I really sort of want to note that it's not just, although that would, I suppose, be classed as bullying. It's just being careful of how you're giving feedback, and if you do receive that feedback in that way, and you're not comfortable, yeah, definitely stand up for yourself.
Cool. Let's get back to Teemu, who mentioned education. My next point is learn, and what I would say to our younger colleagues is learn anatomy. I wish I would learn anatomy better on the beginning, because it's so important in our job. Yes, pharmacology is important. All those things that we do in terms of critical care, very important. But if you learn anatomy on the beginning and you learn it really good, it will make your job in life so much easier, and you will be so much better clinician. Agreed, guys?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's one aspect that the first point we brought up in terms of finding something that motivates you, so you can avoid that poor morale. The education was what motivated me, and I know it's not going to be the same for everyone. So I'm not telling everyone to do it just to say motivated, but that is what worked for me. In my undergrad degree, I was, I always knew what I needed to know, and I was reasonably good in terms of marks, but I hated studying. I never did it in my own time. I did pretty much the bare minimum of what I needed to do to have a good knowledge, and nothing more. And when I think back, it's often because what I think is our industry, at least what it was a couple of years ago, was quite competitive in Australia. So that light at the end of the tunnel, a lot of us were wondering, are we even going to get a job? At the time, about 70% of our graduates wouldn't get a job with a state-based ambulance service. So we're often wondering, if you do a nursing degree, if you do a science degree, it's quite broad. There's a lot of specialties you can move into. If you do a Bachelor of Paramedicine, you can be a paramedic and really not much else. So if you don't get that job, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Whereas once I was in the job, and focus on further education, doing postgraduate study. And when Alex approached me to do this podcast, an education-focused podcast, I sort of jumped at it because this is really my motivation, is learning. So I've gone from someone who's not the greatest person at studying and really, my own time is my own. I am now the biggest nerd. I am in the shower. I've got a podcast going, or I've got like a YouTube video, like a Ninja Nerd YouTube video or something else. Every commute, I'm listening to podcasts. If I'm driving with my partner, I'm listening to podcasting where it's, can we please just listen to some music or nothing?
I mean,
is even better.
Let me stop you here. Yeah. Dear viewers and listeners, you don't know what's going on here. Really, when we're trying to find out which topic we should start, or we are trying to establish some medical professional discussion. Those two nerds, Mr. Silver and Mr. Steed, they are starting like a really nerdy discussion, and I feel like I'm stupid.
Yeah, we're talking about physics and engineering and stuff. And,
and then I say, thank you. That's it. I will leave this discussion.
But yeah, Timu, what's your focus on education, and what would you say to your younger self, given how much education you're doing at the moment?
I was thinking that when I was still in school, I basically spat down upon geriatrics and non-urgent things. I even did my bachelor's thesis on the subject. And at that time, I thought it was pointless, and it's not paramedicine, and why am I even doing this? It's basically like massaging elderly ladies. It's not actual paramedicine. But turns out it's 95% of what we do. It's most of what we do. So if I could go back in time, I would tell myself to actually focus on it. Even more than on the emergency stuff, because in all likelihood it's gonna be the future of the profession, big time, at least in Finland, but possibly around the globe, and probably actually. And as I said, it's 95% of what we do. It's probably not going to be any less anytime soon. And in all honesty, the types of emergencies that we go to are more often quite straightforward and protocol driven, not actual if you know how to read the protocols, you remember them and you know how to follow them, and you know your C, A, B, C, D, E, and you know your meds, you can handle those emergencies. Then obviously there's some outlying cases that are really, really hard. But then when you go to a non-urgent case, there's not going to be a protocol there. It's always going to be different. So you need to have like a really good understanding of anatomy, like Alex said, physiology, pathophysiology, and especially like the changes in the elderly, because they are most of our non-urgent cases. So yeah, I would really, really focus on that big time.
Yeah, which brings me to the next point and next mistake or next advice we should give to our younger colleagues, or I would give to my younger self, is be kind to your patients. It's so simple, but sometimes it's so difficult, especially when we are dealing with emergency, like a real emergency. We tend to forget about it. Let me just remind to all of our younger viewers that an unconscious patient may still hear you. All your comments, all the things you'll say. And the story I'm going to tell is a very short one. It's from ICU. When I worked in pediatric ICU, we had a patient who was 11 years old, girl, after an RTC. She was in pharmacological coma for, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks. So quite a while. And there was one of the nurses who was looking after this girl and was changing her, pad or a nappy, if you like, because of course all the physiology was going on. So this girl had to have a nappy or a pad, if you like. So this nurse, every single day, every single change of this nappy started with shit, there's a shit everywhere. Right? And now, listen to this. This girl, 11 years old, woken up from this pharmacological coma after 3 weeks. Do you know what her first words were? Shit, there's shit everywhere. Guys, your unconscious patients will hear you. So please be kind. And as Timo said, what do you say? Massaging old ladies?
Yeah, it's like a straight translation of what I said in Finnish to my mates.
How it sounds in Finnish?
Vanhojen naisten hieranta tai vanhusten hieranta.
God, it sounds better than in English or in Polish. Masowanie starszych pań. Okay, anyway. So 2 groups of patients. The first group of patients are time-critical patients and unconscious patients. Remember, be kind. But also be kind to those patients who are like, I don't really know what's going on, so I called 111 or 999. And we tend to, I'm not saying that we are, but we tend to be frustrated. Oh, it's not an emergency. You could take yourself to the hospital. Yeah, but that was not their decision to call an ambulance. That was a dispatcher who sent us on the basis of signs and symptoms. That's the one thing. And second thing, your patients may be confused. They have right to be scared. They have right to be, I don't know, a bit lost. So it's our job to be kind and nice to them, even if, it's not a big emergency. It's not an RTC or stroke or MI. Am I right, guys? Or do you have different?
I think you're absolutely on the money there, Alex. I mean, when we go to patients that are lower acuity, you're right. We can often be sort of frustrated. It might be you're reading your dispatch information. It might seem bigger than Ben-Hur and all this stuff, and you get there and it's quite low acuity and like, another one of these. And you can come across quite dismissive, because you think, this isn't an emergency. This doesn't need an ambulance. Why have you got me off my couch? Whereas you've got to think that for a lot of our patients, this may be the first time that they've called an ambulance in their life. And even if they're 30, 40, 50, even 60 years old, they may not have had an ambulance their whole life. And today is the first day in all those decades that they've had to call an ambulance, and something is different. Something has changed. Something has scared them enough that they have felt that they need urgent medical assistance. Now, you in your with all your knowledge and all that, and with all your cynicisms as well, you might think that they don't, and that's fine. And they may not. They may not, in hindsight, require urgent medical assistance. But this is potentially the worst day of their life thus far, at least in a physical capacity, or perhaps even a mental capacity. We all know that there's frequent flyers, or whatever you want to call them, the ones that call ambulances as a form of recreation. This discussion isn't about that. This is about those people that have called because of a genuine concern, and it may be one of very few times in their life that they've had to do so. You need to be compassionate with these people. If you genuinely feel like they don't need care, then tell them why, educate them. We're not just educating ourselves in this job or educating our colleagues, we're educating our patients, and tell them what's happening to them, because often they just need that reassurance. And if that's all they need, then fantastic. But yeah, everyone loves the big high acuity, well, a lot of people love the high acuity, time critical, big trauma, big clinical stuff jobs that you get to do a lot of interventions and practice those rare skills. They're great. But for these lower acuity jobs, don't write it off as something that you don't need to do. As Timu said, our work is changing as medicine gets better, as people get older. We have it definitely in Australia. We have an aging population. I dare say most developed countries across the world are going to have an aging population. That is going to change the nature of the jobs that we see on a daily basis. It's going to be older patients with more chronic conditions rather than younger people doing stupid shit and getting in big traumas. So yeah,
true. Which brings us to the next point, and what I said on my list, what I put on my list is core values. So always put family first. And it's very difficult. And I know it again from my point of view, because I love my job. So my closest ones, friends, family, closer and further family, I tend to put them a bit further, as I always put my job as a first thing. And as it's very personal, let's keep it very personal. I want to apologize my dad here. I didn't go to his birthday. It was 53rd birthday because I was on shift. Maybe I could swap the shift, but I knew that it will be really, really busy shift, and it will be really interesting shift full of interesting interventions. I worked on intensive care then, and I apologized him. I went later, but still I feel really bad about it now, because guys, don't get me wrong, our work is amazing, the things we do is amazing, we love our job, but still the family is most important, I think.
Yeah, it definitely is. I do tend to sometimes I might have like a personal thing, and then I have like a really juicy shifts on a truck or in the doctor unit that I know is going to be really crazy, can get like really good calls and all that stuff, and I could basically swap that shift around to something that's not as interesting at a different date, go to the personal thing. Sometimes I don't. I just keep the shifts, skip the personal thing. And I shouldn't. I definitely should just change the shifts, go do the personal stuff. And obviously there's going to be more shifts in the future, way more than any of us probably want at the end. And there's going to be loads and loads of calls, and you kind of get this sort of addiction to like these good calls, even if it's like it can be non-urgent, like we talked, or it can be the real emergencies. And obviously we are in it to help people, we are in it to save people, even though it's a bit of an old saying, or it's really worn out. But yeah, you get like addicted to it, and you get addicted to the feeling of doing an amazing job on the job, and then you want more, and then you start skipping other stuff, and then you might end up being 50, 65, getting retired and realizing you haven't done anything else other than working. So yeah, I do agree. Family first and friends as well. Definitely.
Absolutely. And even beyond that is the physical aspect. I mean, I work quite a lot of overtime, not just for the money, although that is a large portion of it, because we all need to buy houses, put food on the table. But the part of the reason why I work a lot of overtime shifts is because I really enjoy the work. I love learning, and I love being able to learn something and put it into practice the next day. I love being able to just being a sponge for knowledge and a sponge for experience. So often I find that doing these extra shifts, the money's a bonus. The fact that I'm getting paid for it is a bonus. The main reason I'm doing it, or part of the reason why I'm doing it, is to get the extra experience. But there needs to be a limit on that. Our work in general means that we're missing out on a lot of these things, like our birthdays for family members and things of that nature, and other personal events, and Christmas and New Year's and Easter and all that sort of stuff. We're going to miss out on those with our shift work. The more we do extra shifts, the more we miss out on that even more. And it's not even just those big events. It's just being at home with your family, being at home with your partner. The more we're away at work, the more we're going to miss out on that. So there's definitely the personal aspect. As Timu said, there's always going to be extra shifts, or this job will keep going. Until everything's fully automated, this job will still be there. There's no rush. But friends, family, sometimes they may not be there after this job. Okay. So we need to focus on that. But also the physical aspect. I mean, this job can be physically and mentally demanding, and it can wear you down. And as I mentioned before, we're in some respects selling our bodies to our employers and selling our brains to our employers. Again, without the other connotations.
Too late.
Yeah, too late. Your mind's already gone there. The more we work, the more a physical and mental toll it takes on us, not just the emotional side, but just in our body as an individual. And if you do that for too long, you're going to end up burnt out, either from physical or mental, or
both.
You just break down, or both. You're off work not from an acute injury, but from just something that's been repetitive over time. You've just worn your body down and ground yourself down, and then you can't do the job anymore. So really focus on your priorities. I know that's really easy for me to say, considering I do quite a lot of overtime, but it's something I need to take away as well. Focus on the priorities.
Good. Thank you, guys. Before we will jump to the last point, and before we will see what Gina, our amazing Gina Laurie Wendy from the United States of America, wants to say, a quick reminder.
Hello, my name is Dr. Zygron, and I'm an anesthetist from Poland, and you're watching Group Call.
You are watching Group Call, and we are available on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn Live, and still on Twitch. Please do visit our channel, www.groupcall.uk, or just pop on YouTube and pop Group Call and find us on the channel. Do not forget to subscribe and press the bell icon next to subscribe icon. It will let us send you all those information and heads up when we live, and if we will post a new video, you will know about it first. Last point, and from me would be the time management. And people who knows me know that I can divide 1 second in 4 to actually to do something. I also sometimes try too fast. I hope that no police officer hear that. But try to keep your time management real well. So before the shift, be on the station 10, 15 minutes before your shift. it will give you two things. A, it will let you check the trucks, check the equipment on the truck, make sure that you're ready for your shift. But also, it will help you to change your mindset from this home mindset to work mindset. It will give you time to speak to your peers, which is very important because, guys, our peers are our support group. So basically, if you need support, speak to your colleagues. Those 10 minutes or 15 before your shift will give you this unique opportunity to just change your mindset and feel better, I think. Temu?
Yeah. Well, I do agree. Yeah.
It's not really easy. Let's find.
Being-
Let's say it loud out. It's not easy to get to the station at 20, 30, 10, 15 minutes before your shift. Yeah. Okay. But it really helps, I think.
Yeah. I'm also like really bad at that. I always arrive just at the last second, grab the radio, put the truck online, and then start checking it, then start chatting with my crewmate, or if I'm working alone, then find some colleagues on station and all that. So yeah, definitely should be earlier myself as well. Like as a time management thing for myself or for my younger self, I actually put down like using free time on station. That we, at least in Finland, do quite a lot. This might not resonate in the UK or Australia, I bet, but like should use the free time more on studying or like the professional studying side of things, so that I don't do it at home. Podcasts in the shower, like Harrison said, obviously totally fine and really good, like a really good practice, and also in the car. I just know my wife won't listen to them, so I don't even try. But yeah, studying on the station when you have the free time, or like working out would be really good, which I always neglected. Well, and I still kind of do. But instead, like in the past, especially, I just used to watch Netflix on station if I had free time. Not even actually chatting with anybody, which is not good as well. So just like socializing, working out, studying, instead of sleeping and Netflix.
But you know what? I had one of my colleagues said, I'm not going to come to the station 20 minutes in advance because my employer doesn't pay me for that. And again, please feel free to disagree, but what I think is it's not the time you're giving out to your employer. It's your time to actually get into the work mood.
Yeah, I think like if you rush to the station, like I always do, and just like grab the radio, put the truck online, and then you might get a job straight away, you're not gonna be in a really good mindset to actually respond to it. And even though obviously it's also the employer's fault for not giving you that time, it's gonna be hard on yourself, like psychologically especially, to like possibly flunk on the first job, or like be like really confused and just like out of touch with the job that we do. So yeah, definitely earlier.
We're quite lucky in Australia. So in the service that I work for, there's two sort of types of shift. There'll be a vehicle that runs 24/7. There's, say, a day shift and a night shift on that particular vehicle. So that's always running. And then there's other vehicles that are there for, there's only one shift on it, say a day shift or an afternoon shift. And pretty much all of the stations that I work out of have a kind of unwritten policy that for those 24-hour vehicles, you always come in at least 15 minutes early, if not 20, if not 30. So say if you're starting at 7, you come in at 6:30. Because that means that the crew that are on that day shift, if you're working the night shift, the crew that are on that day shift can go home early. So yeah, you're coming in early, but you're going home early for this mutual understanding. Because it's not so much of a big deal if you start at 7, but you do your first job at 6:50, we'll say, for example. But if you finish at 7, and if do your last job at 6:50, that's going to take you overtime.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be very nice. So that's why we have this sort of unwritten policy of coming in early. And then again, once again, we're quite lucky with our employer is that those other vehicles where we don't hand over, it's that one shift, is that we do actually get paid for 10 minutes either side of our shift to come in early to prepare our truck.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
nice.
it's quite good. So because we have to log off our scheduled medications, our restricted medications, we have to prepare the vehicle. So we actually get paid 10 minutes overtime each side of our shift to make sure we come in early, to make sure as soon as it hits the start of our shift, that vehicle's operational and ready. But even sort of more than that, I think it is important to sort of come in. I often sort of come in even a bit earlier than that, just so that I can sort of slowly do things, slowly check the truck, so take my time, either be thorough with it or be lazy with it, depending on what sort of mood I'm in. But just so that I'm not in a rush. Because you're absolutely right. If you start your morning or you start your night in a rush, it doesn't set you up well for the first job.
And
yeah, I think that's a very, very good point.
Quick question about the late jobs, because here in the UK, it's not the case anymore, but there was a thing that if dispatcher sent a crew for a late job, the dispatcher was staying there up to the moment when the paramedics came back to the station.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
It was like 7-10 years ago. That was the thing in the United Kingdom.
Yeah. If we suffer, you suffer too.
But yeah, it's not the thing anymore. All right, guys, let's see what Gina wants to say.
Hello, this is Gina LaRue-Windy from the United States of America in St. Louis, Missouri. Today's topic is going back in time, things that I would have told myself when I first started EMS, things that I've learned, things that I would have changed, and then advice to give any future EMS people that would like to continue in this field and or go into this field of EMS. So this is from Back to the Future 2, so I figured it was appropriate to wear it. I would like to give advice. The first one of it is like when I was stressed and I was busy and I was doing like a million different things, going to school myself, working a busy ambulance service, managing different programs within that EMS service. I remember one time sitting there crying just because I could not figure out my schedule. And I wanted to do so many things with my friends and my family. Well, one of my partners that I had worked with, he pulled me off to the side and was like, why don't you go and do it? And I was just like, what? He said, why don't you live your life? And it hit me for a minute. And he's like, to the company that I'm working for, I could just be a number. One single number, and I'm easily replaceable, but I can't replace the time that I've lost that I could have taken if I didn't take it, if that makes any sense. So then I was like, yeah, it does make sense. So then you have to make time for you. That's my lesson. I never took time for me, and I'm still learning to this day how to take time for me because we're so wrapped up. Sometimes people think that this is a job or a career. It could be a compassion. And that's another thing. If you don't take time out for yourself, there could be compassion fatigue. And compassion fatigue can lead to burnout. And burnout can be very dangerous for paramedics as well as the patient that you're treating. So another thing I would have done differently when I was younger is as far as a career goes, if you want to be like something else, try it. All you can do is try it. EMS is a great opportunity where you open up all these doors and these windows. This could be you want to be a firefighter. Well, we work with the fire department. It's okay. Go and talk to them. Maybe you'll find out you like it. We work with police officers. Maybe you want to be a police officer. Go and talk to them. So many opportunities happen. It's just if you want to take them, then take those opportunities and talk to those people. At one point in time, if you get to the point where like you're busy and you're having like a bad day, and always remember that somebody's looking up to you. You could be on your 20th call and you're like, man, I'm really crabby, I'm hungry, I'm starving, and nothing is going right. And all of a sudden you look in the corner and you see a little kid just looking up to you, and you're like, oh, you're an EMS and you're a girl and you have mohawk and tattoos and you're leading all these guys, and then you're like, yeah. And so then always somebody's always looking up to you. Even it could be a kid, it could be your coworkers, it could be a friends or family, it could just be somebody else. Once you put on that uniform, you're kind of representing EMS in general and whatever company you work for. Also, too, gas station food, if it looks sketchy, don't eat it. If it smells bad, don't eat it. If you're not new to it, or if you've never tried it before, don't eat it. Also, too, don't leave things that you consider cherishable, like in your ambulance. Always take things that are valuable to you home with you, because people, maybe not you, but other people could take it home. So anything valuable, I would always take it home. Another thing is Missouri, and it has different CEUs that we're required to renew our license. Same thing with National Registry. In the United States of America, you have different protocols, different regions, different whatever licensing things that are required by state. But please do your CEUs. As soon as you renew your license, go ahead and start working on those CEUs so that it's not like a crunch time and a panic mode before your renewal date is up. Also, too, smile, have fun. EMS is a fun thing. It's a great experience. You always want to have fun. It's okay. Don't sweat the smart stuff. Adapt and adjust and overcome. Anything can happen. Anything. You just have to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. And I hope you guys have a great day. And as far as Doc Brown goes, your future is unwritten. So you literally have to make it a good one. So you guys have a great day. Bye.
Wow. I think that she made a really good point. Always make time for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And also like whatever she said about like pursuing different paths from EMS, like the things that we see, obviously nursing, A&E, stuff like that. And like for myself, trying to get into medical school and become a doctor. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Make time for yourself, because no one else will.
No one else.
Yeah.
You got to look out for number
Absolutely.
one.
And always take your stethoscope home. Never leave it on the truck.
And if it looks dodgy and smells dodgy, don't eat it.
That's an excellent point.
And we will leave you guys with this one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will see you in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, have a great day and great night. Timo Silva, Harrison Steed, Alex Hepner. This was Group Call. Bye.